God bless America. I am absolutely thankful to God, to fate, whatever you want to call it, that I was born in America. I love this country, and I know you do as well. I am the descendants of people like you who wanted a better life for themselves. My great-grandfather was living in a town called Neustedt, Germany. It is now Szczecinek, Poland. I am not German, as I've told you before. I'm now Polish. So I don't want to hear any more of those jokes anymore ever. But anyway, I'm glad to be here, and it's wonderful that we have the 4th of July and we have this historical worship service. I hope all of you had a lovely 4th of July. I had a very patriotic 4th of July. The first thing I did that had a great significance to our country is that I had a wedding. And the wedding was appropriately on July the 4th because it was between a Marine who just got back from Afghanistan and his wife that he married immigrated from Bulgaria here when she was 4 years old. Hope I got that right. They were trying back then to have a better life from Bulgaria to America. And so they came here, and we welcomed them, of course, with opened arms as we were welcomed many, many years ago. And so we have people from Central America, South America, children who are trying their best to better their lives as well. And I would like to see our country find a way to welcome them as we were welcomed back in many, many years ago, some as recently as 1993 or whatever. And so I celebrated America this weekend, and I see that a lot of you are here and have celebrated the weekend as well. I've been also thankful that the weather has been absolutely beautiful. It is wonderful. Last night they had a game. The Braves were playing, I think, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And right at 5:25, when it was time for me to come over here for the Saturday night worship, I had a dilemma. Because I was listening to the game on the radio. Atlanta had a runner on first and a runner on third, and the score was 3-2. And I said, God, do we really have to do church tonight? And so I don't know who won the game last night. Who won? The Braves. Yes, well, way to go, the Braves, because it sounded like a very exciting game. And not only that, it was cool weather, and I know the people that went to the game last night thoroughly enjoyed the evening, and it's even better hearing that they won. But I'm serious. I was so tempted to just let it go and listen to see if they got those two runners in, because I don't think there was but one out. And so, well, enough for the ball game. But anyway, talking about sports, as an American, I will support any team that's playing anywhere representing the United States of America. Now, in my lifetime, I have said some ugly things about soccer. I told my wife many times, there's no way in the world that sport is going to catch on in America. It's worse than watching paint dry. But, you like soccer?
No, we were watching Netherlands, but they weren't scoring. Nobody was scoring.
Well, they don't score. They just kick. But anyway, I said to myself and to the staff on Tuesday, I said, we are Americans. The 4th of July is coming up. We will close the office today at 3 so we can go home and support our team and cheer for America against Belgium. So the staff got their stuff up in about 2 seconds. We're headed out the door. I said, are y'all going to watch the soccer game? They said no. They just went home. But that's okay. I got home. I got settled in my easy chair. And I turned the TV on and I watched that game from the very beginning until the very end. And I am so proud of how our players played in that game. They played a top-notch game. And I'm glad I watched that game because the goalie, I understand, set a record. I think he saved about 16 or 17 goals. 19. See, I'm not the only one that watched it. Isn't that a record, though? That goalie was awesome. He was stopping one goal after another, and I was so proud of the rest of the players, too, because Belgium was the only team that hadn't lost a game up to that point, and I thought it was just going to be a smear, but the American players played and played and played and played, and this brings me to the title of my sermon. The soccer players we saw in this game never for 1 second gave up. They never gave up. When it came to overtime and they got a goal, Belgium got a goal, they didn't give up. They played even harder. And so even though Belgium won 2-1, I was so proud of our team. But I was most proud of the fact that they never, ever gave up. To our visitors, sooner or later, we get to Jesus. Okay? With regards to the 10 Commandments, many people have said, Pastor Grunke, they are impossible to keep. They are so difficult on some days to do what God intends for us to do with regards to the 10 Commandments. But with regards to the 10 Commandments, I think we should keep them close to our heart. And no matter how difficult they might be, we should realize what they are for. They are for our good. They are to bring order to chaos. And so with regards to the 10 Commandments, I don't care how bad we might mess up one day. The next day, get up and say, never give up. These commandments were a gift from God to be a blessing to us, so that our lives will have the kind of joy and peace that you see with this person in our screen. The reason we have these last two commandments is because with regards to property, there was chaos in the wilderness. Women in this particular time in our history were considered what? Property. They were property. They could be sold, they could be bartered, they could be discarded. And what was happening was, since they had no moral compass, no ceremonial compass, and no civil compass, the Jews were in the wilderness free to do whatever they wanted to with their property, with no guidance from God. And I'll tell you what was happening, Lee. This man in this one tent, say he's been married 25 years. He sees a woman down the tent row that looks a whole lot younger and a whole lot better than his wife. And he starts to covet. He's thinking, how can I get this wife and get rid of this one? So he would go down the tent and he'd talk to that guy and he'd say, well, how long have you been married? Oh, about 25 years. He said, you still love your wife? Well, pretty much. Think you're about ready for a new one? Yeah, what you got in mind? Well, I'll tell you what. I really think your wife is cool. And my wife, we've been together 25 years, and I'm getting really tired of her. She don't obey me like she used to. Won't cook the things I want her to. Makes me help with the dishes. Makes me help with the yard work. And I'm quite frankly tired of it. So I'll tell you what let's do. For a little money on the top, let's swap off. You take my wife, and I'll take yours. How about that? You don't believe me, but this is what was happening. And it happened not only with the spouses, but it was happening with the cattle, with their property, with their manservants and maidservants. People were like stealing left and right. See, coveting is the thought. Acquisition is the sin. So their coveting was turning into sinful acquisition. Remember that term, sinful acquisition. If you walk along and you see something and you say to yourself, boy, I'd sure love to have that car. Like every time Richard Radke pulls up in his Porsche, I always think. And you notice he parks it way down in the corner. You know why he does that? He don't want any door dings on his Porsche. So I sit in my office, and I think he parks it down there just to rub it in my face. Richard, you don't mind me talking about you, do you? Have you ever offered me a ride in your car? Okay. But let's say he drives up on Sunday morning, and I say to myself, I would really love to have that car. Now that's a thought. Sinful acquisition is when I start trying to figure out a way to get it away from him. For example, if there's a grill that's down the tents from these Jews in the wilderness, and they wanted it, and they were coveting it, sinful acquisition would mean in the middle of the night they would go steal that grill. And the person that had that grill would come over and say, look, that's my grill. And the other guy would say, well, unless your name is Weber, it's mine now. And so God looks down from his heaven and he says, we got to stop this chaos. We got to stop this kind of behavior. And so he gives us the 9th and 10th commandment. It said, if it's not yours, if it doesn't belong to you, leave it the heck alone. And also with regards to getting rid of your spouses and discarding them like property, Moses said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. To protect the women, we're going to allow divorce. And so Moses would give them permission to divorce their wives, so that would set her free so that she could go after a younger man or something or whatever. But she was set free to have her life to the fullest. So, what I would like for you to consider as we close out our study of the Ten Commandments is this. Remember those American soccer players. And remember the fact that these 10 Commandments were given to us so that our lives would have more order and less chaos. Never, ever give up. I'm devoutly done.